Welcome back, everybody. It's your favorite professor, Dr. T. So, just to go to our next parent function, let's review the first function, f of x being equal to x. And then I'll call this one g of x. It means the same exact thing, being x squared. And then h of x being equal to, what's the next one? Next power, x to the third power, and in c of x. All right, so I'm going to turn these off. So I actually left out the absolute value function. So the absolute value is similar to the x squared function, okay? So what that means is that all of my values, no matter what I put in for x, I'm going to get positive values. So if you look at the tables of these two, I'm going to get positive values no matter what I substitute in. So you see these negatives over here for x as the input, which is also the domain. I'm going to get positive values out, okay? The absolute value function is also a parent function that we can talk about. And there's a different way you can put the absolute value in. You can actually use this button down here to put that in. But in any case, I'm going to turn that off. We talked about the linear function, right? We talked about the table for that. And now we're just going to add in the next function, which will be x to the third power, which we call the cubic function. So I'm going to turn that on, and you can see the difference between x squared and x cubed. Now, if you can describe what they look like, right? So if I say, describe what the quadratic function, the parabola, or the x squared function looks like, you could just say it opens up, it looks like a U shape, and that's pretty much it. You can talk about the values, right? So if I substitute a number in for x, I'm going to always get a positive value in the parent function. And also it's going to multiply by itself. So x times x is how you get your result. And that's it. If you can describe these functions, you can do calculus, okay? So I'm going to actually just talk about the cubic function here, and I'm going to put the table in for that so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so what do you think will happen when I show the table for x cubed, right? The cubic function. Now, also, I can label these, right? So I can actually write these out. So let me turn them all back on and show you the labeling function. So you can add in a note, right? And I'm going to move that there. So this is the absolute value function. The next one is linear function. So for here, can you remember? It's the quadratic function. It doesn't matter. We can put it here. Table quadratic function. I missed the letter C. This would be the cubic function. So when you are looking at this, right, what do you expect the table to look like if we have an input of -2 and we're talking about x to the second power, that means we're multiplying -2 times -2. So that's how we get 4. When we also multiply 2 times 2, that's how we get 4, okay? So what do you think happens when I substitute the same number, -2, in for x here? And you can pause the video before I show the table. So think about it. Okay. And then here's the table, right? So I'm going to turn all these other functions off. Okay. So now I can see what happens at -2. Remember, we could label. but I can also I'm just going to see if I can zoom out a little bit and you can see them all. Okay. Now, if you can describe, especially the parabola, x squared, and you can describe what happens here. So what is happening? I'm moving up from left to right, and then it starts to curve a little bit, and I go through the origin, and then I curve some more, and then I shoot up really fast. Okay, if you can describe this kind of function, if you can describe x squared, you can do calculus. If you have any questions or if you didn't understand anything that I talked about, or if you have a suggestion, please let me know. And as always, thank you for watching. See you next time.